Imagine spending millions of Reichsmarks building a stealth murder tube. Diesel-electric, pressure hull, torpedo-slinging, German engineering, personified, only to be defeated by your own lunch. Because that's the story of U-1206, a late-war German U-boat, a high-tech marvel built when Nazi Germany was already circling the drain. And then it literally got taken out by a toilet. Not a torpedo, not a depth charge, not a heroic last stand, a high-pressure, deep-water toilet. A device so over-engineered it required a specialist whose job title was basically Chief Wizard of Poop Valves. And when the captain, Karl-Adolf Schlitt, decided, I got this, he did not, in fact, get this. One wrong valve sequence later, seawater floods in, hits battery banks, sitting right under the head like the worst possible feng shui, and the boat manufactures a cloud of chlorine gas, which is history's way of saying, congrats, you just turned your submarine into a World War I trench. So they surface. In April 1945, near Scotland, in British-controlled airspace. This is the tale of the most advanced U-boat getting forced to the surface for a bathroom break, and immediately meeting the RAF. April 1945. Nazi Germany is losing badly. The Allies are closing in from the west, the Soviets from the east, and the whole regime is doing what failing regimes do best, doubling down on miracle tech and magical thinking. This is the era of Wunderwaffen, wonder weapons, jet fighters, rocket missiles, super-heavy tanks, late-war U-boats, anything that lets leadership pretend the laws of logistics, fuel supply, pilot training, and reality are optional. And here's the thing, some of this tech was legitimately advanced. German industry could still produce brilliant machines, even while the state driving it was a collapsing catastrophe. So the Navy, desperate to keep the U-boat war alive, keeps building. One of the last refinements of the classic Type 7 line is the Type SIC 41, a toughened, slightly improved workhorse designed to go deeper and survive more punishment. Enter U-1206. She's built late, launched late, trained late, deployed late. Because by 1945, every German submarine is basically going out into the Atlantic with a sign that says, "Please sink me. The Allies have radar now." The Allies have better anti-sub tactics, escort carriers, long-range patrol aircraft, improved sonar, and enough ships to wallpaper the ocean. The U-boat fleet is being hunted like it owes money. So what do? You add complexity, you add systems, you add innovation, and apparently you add a toilet that can operate at depth. Most submarines can't just flush whenever they want while deep underwater. Pressure is a thing. Ocean pressure is a very aggressive thing. And on U-1206, German engineering tried to solve that. With a system so complicated it required a literal waste disposal specialist. Because if there's one thing you want, in a war machine, it's a critical combat system that depends on a guy whose entire job is knows which lever not to touch. Let's talk about what U-1206 actually was. Type Sank 41 was the late-war improved variant of Germany's most produced submarine family, the Type 7. These boats were the backbone of the U-boat campaign, compact, mass-producible, and lethal. The 7C-41 improvement focuses on survivability, stronger pressure hull sections, allowing deeper operating depths. A Type 7's submerged life depends on its battery banks, large arrays of lead-acid cells. These are heavy, bulky, and essential. You need them like you need oxygen because they are literally what powers the motors when the diesels can't run underwater. Where do you put batteries in a submarine? Low, central, and protected. Because weight low helps stability. But submarines are also a Tetris nightmare. Every cubic inch is contested territory, torpedoes, crew bunks, provisions, and the one thing everyone forgets until it's too late: sanitation. On U-1206, the toilet system is positioned such that when things go wrong, seawater can end up where it absolutely shouldn't, including down toward battery spaces. If you're designing a boat to survive depth charges, maybe don't route your ocean entry portal directly above your chemical hazard box. Why is deep water flushing so hard? Because at depth, the ocean is pushing back with a pressure that can only be described as, you and your plumbing are not the main character. Pressure increases roughly 1 atmosphere every 10 meters of seawater depth. So at about 200 feet, you're dealing with about 90 psi trying to shove seawater into any opening connected to the sea. A normal toilet flush works because the bowl is at the same pressure as the room. On a submerged submarine, your drain ultimately goes overboard, where the pressure is much higher than your boat's interior. So if you open the wrong valve at depth, seawater doesn't politely seep in. It jets in like it's been waiting its whole life for this moment. Germany decided, what if we made a toilet that can discharge at depth using a controlled valve sequence and compressed air? In principle, it's clever. In practice, it's a complicated system of valves and interlocks where one mistake means the Atlantic Ocean has entered the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, the deep-water, high-pressure toilet, the only weapon system in World War II that could defeat its own submarine without enemy participation. So how complicated are we talking? Accounts describe a system with multiple valves that must be operated in a strict order. If you get the order wrong, you can either fail to flush or invite the sea into your submarine. This is why U-1206 carried a specialist whose entire job was to keep the submarine from dying, because somebody needed to go. A high-pressure submarine toilet system generally involves a collection, chamber, a sea discharge line with a seacock, and compressed air lines to blow out contents. The manual-style procedure sounds like this. Step 1. Ensure the system is in the correct baseline state. Step 2. Load payload. Step 3. Seal the bowl chamber. Step 4. Open the valve to the intermediate tank. Step 5. Equalize pressure in the intermediate tank. Step 6. Confirm the correct discharge path is selected. Step 7. Open the sea discharge valve. Step 8. Apply compressed air in a controlled burst to blow contents out. Step 9. Close sea valve. Step 10. Vent and reset system to safe state. That's a lot of steps for something you can do at a gas station. And here's the key. Some valve positions can allow seawater to backflow into the system if you open them at the wrong time, especially at depth. Also, compressed air is stored energy. If you pressurize the wrong part of the system, you can force water the wrong direction, slam valves, or rupture seals. So the toilet is basically a pressure vessel with attitude, which is why the specialist existed. He knew the order, he knew which handle was flush, and which handle was summon Poseidon. And then Captain Schlitt, our protagonist, our tragic hero, decides he doesn't need the specialist. It's April 1945. U-1206 is on patrol. They're submerged at around 200 feet depth. That depth matters. It's deep enough that the sea is pressing on every external opening like a debt collector. Now imagine life on board. It's cramped. It smells like diesel, sweat, rubber, and stress. Air is managed carefully. Batteries are your lifeline. You don't waste electricity. You don't waste compressed air. You definitely don't waste time. And then nature calls. Captain Karl-Adolf Schlitt decides to use the high-pressure toilet himself, without waiting for the specialist. This is either confidence, impatience, or the universal human belief that instructions are optional. He begins operating the valve sequence, and somewhere in that sequence, one handle turned out of order, seawater begins entering the system. At first, it might not be obvious. A hiss, a gurgle, a resistance in the handle, the kind of sound you hear when plumbing is about to become your whole personality. Then it escalates. Schlitt realizes this is no longer a handle jiggle situation. He calls for the specialist. "Get the toilet guy, now." The specialist arrives and attempts to correct the valve alignment, but the system is already partially flooded, and the sea is actively trying to climb into the boat. Water spills out beyond where it should be, from the toilet system into surrounding spaces. This is where design turns a bathroom problem into a boat problem. The flooding reaches areas below deck plates, toward the electrical spaces. Under the deck plates are major battery compartments. When seawater reaches battery systems, bad things happen fast. Lead-acid batteries contain sulfuric acid. Seawater contains chloride salts. Mix the wrong chemicals, add electricity, and you generate toxic gases, specifically chlorine, a greenish-yellow choking agent. Crew begins noticing it. Sharp odor, burning eyes, throat irritation. Panic starts creeping in. On a submarine, you can't just open a window. Air is life. And now the air is doing an impression of chemical warfare. This is the moment when jokes stop being funny. Chlorine gas isn't just unpleasant. It can incapacitate you and kill. The crew attempts damage control, but they have a brutal choice. Stay submerged and keep inhaling toxic gas, or surface and risk immediate detection. And in April 1945, near Britain, surfacing is basically standing up in a shooting gallery and yelling, "Hello, I am a U-boat." Schlitt orders the boat to surface. The boat rises. The pressure eases. But now they're trading one hazard for another, the RAF. So U-1206 surfaces off the coast of Scotland, right where British patrols are thick. Imagine you're a British aircrew in a patrol aircraft, likely a Vickers Wellington, scanning the sea for periscopes. And then a full-sized U-boat just pops up like, "Hello, please ignore, just bathroom." The RAF reacts the way the RAF reacts, with enthusiasm and explosives. Patrol aircraft attack with depth charges or bombs. The surfaced submarine is in a terrible position, vulnerable, with crew already stressed and dealing with toxic contamination. The situation becomes unrecoverable. With the boat compromised and escape impossible, the crew scuttles, intentionally sinks the submarine to prevent capture. This is the point where we remember these are human beings in a steel coffin scenario, making the fastest possible decisions under lethal pressure. They abandon ship, cold water, chaos. Rescue and capture follows. Most of the crew survived and became prisoners of war. And just like that, U-1206, one of Germany's late war advanced boats, is gone. Not because the Allies outsmarted her tactics, but because the submarine's innovation created a chain reaction, toilet mistake to seawater ingress to battery contamination to toxic gas to forced surfacing to air attack to scuttle. The kill chain starts with a flush. So what happened to Captain Schlitt? He survived. He became a POW and lived a long post-war life, dying at around 90 years old, which means he had decades to live with the knowledge that his submarine got taken out by a toilet. The core failure isn't dumb captain. The core failure is a late-war engineering culture that often confused complexity with capability. A high-pressure toilet is not inherently stupid, but the system was too complex for routine use without a specialist, and too unforgiving of human error. It was paired with a catastrophic layout risk, hazardous battery systems positioned where a sanitation failure can cascade into an emergency. By 1945, any incident that forces surfacing is effectively a death sentence for the boat. U-1206 didn't need a catastrophic hull breach from depth charges. It just needed one self-inflicted reason to come up. And that's exactly what the toilet delivered. So here's U-1206 in one sentence. A late-war German wonder weapon submarine, built with improved depth capability, was effectively defeated by an over-engineered toilet that punished one wrong move by flooding the boat, contaminating batteries, generating toxic gas, forcing a surface in hostile waters, and getting the sub destroyed by British patrols. German engineering built a stealth machine designed to fight destroyers and outrun death, and then installed a bathroom system that required a certified professional to operate without triggering chemical warfare. U-1206, proof that the secret weapon was not a torpedo. It was the head. And the final irony? The captain lived to be an old man, which means the real punishment wasn't the RAF. It was 40-plus years of people eventually asking, "So what happened to your submarine?" And him having to say, "The toilet."